When you hear the words, the smartest character in Jujutsu Kaisen, who comes to mind? Maybe it's Nanami, the well-dressed salaryman sorcerer, whose ability requires him to strike enemies at precise mathematical ratios. Or maybe it's Gojo, who acts like an idiot many times, but is actually so good at everything that he has to nerf himself. Another top contender is Maki, who manages to be one of the strongest fighters at the Tokyo school despite having very low levels of cursed energy and not being able to see curses without special glasses. All of those characters and other cast members you might think of pale in comparison to the true galaxy brain of Jujutsu Kaisen, Aoi Todo. He comes off as an easily angered meathead at first, especially with his quirk of instantly judging people based on what type of woman they like. But behind this facade, Todo is incredibly brilliant, even if he may not have the 530,000 IQ he claims to have. In this video, I'm going to talk about 3 distinct ways that Todo has proven himself to be the most genius character in Jujutsu Kaisen so far. Number 1, his incredible strategy while fighting. Number 2, his mental alternate universe. And number 3, his independence. Just as a warning, this video will contain spoilers for the Jujutsu Kaisen anime. The first and most prominent way that Todo displays his intellect in Jujutsu Kaisen is through his strategic fighting. That's shown best when Yuji Itadori and Todo are fighting against the cursed spirit Nanami. Before Todo himself even jumps into the fight, he shows how intelligent he is by the fact that his small amount of coaching and sparring with Itadori has made Itadori a far better fighter. Itadori is even able to master the Black Flash, an extremely difficult jujutsu technique. You might just chalk that up to Itadori being smart and growing quickly, but Todo provides a lot more evidence of his own genius when he joins the fray. He's able to instantly fall in sync with Itadori, mirroring his stances and performing coordinated attacks with little communication. What comes next is a stroke of absolute genius, though. Todo begins to use his technique, which he says swaps the place of him and his opponent when he claps. He then uses that technique repeatedly to swap places with both Nanami and Itadori, which is utterly disorienting to the enemy. Just take a moment here to consider how much brain power it takes to use this technique successfully. Todo has to make split-second judgments about who to swap with and when to do it based on everyone's positions on the battlefield and the trajectories of their attacks. He has to predict when and where Itadori and Nanami will strike to both ensure Nanami gets hit and Itadori doesn't. On top of all that mental strain, Todo also employs 2 different types of trickery during the fight. The first is when he claps without activating his technique, which bluffs Nanami into preparing for a swap and lets Itadori land his 4th consecutive Black Flash. The second is when he reveals that his technique is actually not just swapping with another fighter, but swapping with anything that has cursed energy above a certain level, which allows him to swap Itadori with the special grade cursed tool and deal a huge amount of unexpected damage. The reason why this is such an incredible bluff is not just because Todo brought in a weapon out of nowhere, but because he was able to fool Nanami into believing his original technique reveal. In Jujutsu Kaisen, when someone reveals their technique, they get a power boost in return, so Nanami had no reason to suspect Todo was lying. Todo planned from the beginning of the fight to give up a potential power boost just to have the element of surprise for an even stronger blow later. That proves he is a truly great tactician, and so strong that even his normal attacks seem like they've been powered up. But if you're not yet convinced that Todo is the biggest giga brain in Jujutsu Kaisen, it's time to move on to my second point, which is the alternate reality that Todo has created inside his head. When Todo meets Itadori, he asks him the question that he asks everyone: what type of woman do you like? And when Itadori reveals that his preference is the exact same as Todo's, Todo instantly views him as a brother. In that moment though, he imagines an entire alternate reality where the 2 of them went to school together and were best friends, a scene so vivid that it drives him to tears. This is by far my favorite scene in the entire show so far, and it's more than just comic relief. Todo imagines this entire experience in an instant, and I believe this vast mental creation is the reason why Todo is able to fight in perfect sync with Itadori just minutes later. Todo also retreats into this mental world once during the fight, very similar to a Sherlock Mind Palace type scene. He has a conversation with his idol Takada-chan, which leads him to deduce that the buds that Nanami shoots out gain effectiveness the more the target guards with cursed energy. In response, Todo drops his energy guard altogether and is unharmed. But despite this mental conversation lasting 50 seconds in Todo's head, it actually takes 0.01 seconds in reality. This demonstrates that Todo's brain has some insane processing power, and further solidifies him as the smartest character in Jujutsu Kaisen. The third reason why Todo has the biggest brain in Jujutsu Kaisen is that he's completely independent. When he's ordered by his principal to kill Itadori, he decides to ignore that until he's determined what kind of person Itadori is. And once he finds out that Itadori is similar to him, he not only doesn't kill him, but he trains him to be a better fighter and helps him fend off a special grade cursed spirit, after he's determined Itadori has earned it, of course. Todo also shows his independence in an earlier scene where he refuses to stay at a meeting with his peers and principal because he has an idol stream to watch. He won't let others tell him what to do, even in an environment where Jujutsu sorcerers are heavily bound by rules and expectations. Todo isn't the only person in Jujutsu Kaisen who displays independence, but he's one of the most brazen, and it further emphasizes his critical thinking and high intellect. Altogether, Todo's strategy, mental world, and independence solidify him as the smartest character in the show. Thank you for watching this analysis. If you enjoyed this video, please consider liking and subscribing, as it will help me out a lot as I grow the channel. I'm Matrix from Matrix A&M, Anime and More, and I hope you have a great day.